In New Jersey, some landlords have decided to sue the tenants that they can't evict. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I've said it before. Do whatever it takes to survive this financially. And do not let these tenants get away with just completely screwing you over for a year plus, okay? So if that means that you have to sue them, if that means that you have to, possibly get their wages garnished, go after their bank accounts, go after whatever assets possible so that you don't lose your property, do it, okay? Hire a lawyer, hire an attorney to help you in these lawsuits, and you could possibly receive some sort of financial compensation that could help you get through this crisis. But anyway, I got this interesting article, and it comes out of NJ.com, and it says, unable to evict tenants, some New Jersey landlords sue them instead. And yeah, I certainly would go after the tenants' assets and go after their wages and whatever else. Okay, it's complete BS that we can't get these tenants out of our units. And if they do have money, then they need to be paying us. So yeah, these lawsuits, they're just a necessary fact at this point with these eviction moratoriums going on and everything. So before I get into this article, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button. I'll keep working to bring you more articles like this about the eviction moratorium and other news that's related to landlords and what we're going through right now. Last fall, it seemed, the worst was over for Tanya Ortiz. Her landlord filed to evict her from the Jersey City apartment over the summer, but because of the state's eviction moratorium, she would not be forced to leave. After spending a few months without work, she had resumed her job as a mail carrier, and she had just learned that a county-administered grant of CARES Act funding would cover much of her back rent. Then her landlord sued her. It was stressing me a lot, Ortiz said. I have my granddaughter here. I have my daughter, my son. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Where am I going to get the money? Well, the good news is that she is employed. The article says that she got a job as she resumed her job as a mail carrier. So yeah, she is getting paid. But it's too bad, but she owes this landlord money, okay? So even if there is some funding coming in through, the CARES Act, and there is some relief being provided, if she still owes this landlord money, then she has to pay back what is owed. If it was a credit card company, it'd be the same thing. Believe me, okay? I've had family and friends who have faced the wrath of debt collectors, and they've gone through all of this before, and there's no different when it comes to being a landlord, okay? The landlord needs their money in order to keep their property operating. They are going to go after it by any means necessary. Now, in its 14th month, New Jersey's eviction moratorium protects tenants from being forced out of their homes for being unable to pay rent. But like Ortiz, some renters are facing a different kind of legal difficulty: lawsuits from their landlords seeking to recover unpaid rent. I can tell you that we have seen a substantial increase in those cases, said Maura Sanders, Chief Counsel for Housing and Government Benefits at Legal Services of New Jersey, a nonprofit that provides legal services to low-income clients across the state. Yeah, there's going to be an increase in those kinds of cases, especially when you can't actually remove anyone from a property. So the landlords have to go after the money. They have to go after the money, and that's just the simple truth. Now, if a tenant is collecting unemployment, if a tenant has a job and they're still not paying anything, then the landlord has to go after those assets because that's what's owed to them. The tenant cannot just live for free. And as far as I know, throughout the country, there was never any promise that the debt would be completely forgiven, okay? This isn't just you live for free. No, the debt continues to accrue. You just can't be evicted at this time until the moratorium is ended. Usually, landlords rely on eviction proceedings, which are simpler and faster to recover lost rent, Saunders said. But because the eviction courts are not hearing most cases right now, we're seeing more civil cases being filed and more actions brought, she said. In some circumstances, Sanders said, landlords are using the civil cases as a lever to convince tenants to move out. Yeah, that's what I would do. I'd be like, listen, we're going to go after your wages. We're going to go after your bank account. We're going to go after your assets. Or you can just move out on your own right now, go find a place that you can live outside of my building and allow me to rent my property back out to tenants who will pay me, okay? I don't want to have to go through all this, but you're forcing my hand. And that's the truth, okay? I can't evict you right now. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to get my money, period. Ortiz is a mail carrier for the post office, and her husband works in maintenance at a hotel, she said. Last year, in the early days of pandemic restrictions, he said, both were out of work for 3 or 4 months. CARES Act funds from the county's eviction prevention program covered some of her back rent, but not all. Everything started to get behind, she said. In a November lawsuit filed in Hudson County Superior Court Special Civil Division, Ortiz's landlord, Krishna Pradhan, demanded $15,000 and alleged that Ortiz was in breach of lease agreement for failing to pay rent and additional rent, according to the complaint. Yeah, I mean, she owes $15,000. I mean, what do they expect her landlord to do? Just forgive that $15,000? I'm sorry, but we still have our payments. We still have to provide our mortgage costs to our lenders. We still have to pay for maintenance, capital expenditures, utilities, etc. for every single unit that we own. So you can't just say, hey, we're just not going to pay our rent and you should just forgive it. No, that's not going to happen. We're going to come after that money that's owed to us. And I'm sorry if you're facing this lawsuit, but that's just the way it has to be. Roberta Tarkin, an attorney for Pradhan, said the case is nothing personal. Most landlords, Tarkin knows, are willing to work with tenants on reaching payment deals, she said. But when you have a tenant who doesn't communicate, who refuses to communicate, that's when these lawsuits are filed. Yeah, that's kind of enlightening right there, because this article doesn't say anything bad about this tenant that they feature, but the lawyer immediately comes out and says, hey, this tenant wasn't communicating. This tenant didn't work out a payment plan. This tenant wasn't doing anything to get themselves out of this situation, and instead was just hoping to just stay in the unit as long as possible without paying. Well, yeah, those are the tenants that we're going to be coming after with these lawsuits. And I don't blame the landlord one bit. The eviction moratorium is only about not evicting people to keep a roof over their head, she added. It has nothing to do with a monetary judgment. But although they cannot result in eviction, civil cases like the one filed against Ortiz can absolutely have significant financial implications for tenants, said Amy Albert, a staff attorney at Jersey City-based tenant advocacy group, the Waterfront Project. Albert is representing Ortiz in the civil case, which is ongoing. A judgment issued against the tenant could affect their credit score in the future, Albert said, and could have the effect of publicizing their tax or income records. Such judgments can also imperil tenants' ability to find new apartments. Yeah, if your credit is ruined because you owe this huge debt, a lot of landlords nowadays are running credit and they're going to turn you down. So, I mean, it really doesn't benefit you to accrue such a huge debt and then do nothing to try to pay it off, okay? All these tenants are doing is really hurting themselves by staying in these places longer than necessary. So, yeah, they were out of work for 3 or 4 months, her and her husband. But they're both working now, so they really need to be making extra payments, doing everything they can to try to get back in good standing with their landlord, and they're not. So the landlord their hand was forced. They're forced to sue to try to get the $15,000 that this tenant owes them.